Hi friends, I'm Teacher Luke and welcome to this Duolingo English Test speaking course. This speaking course consists of 10 different lessons to help you with all of the speaking questions on this test. Lesson 1 will help you understand the different speaking questions and how to get a good score. And then lessons 2 to 10 are all about strategies and practice. I'm sure this course will be really helpful for you. And if you would like me to make more courses like this, write yes below in the comments. Okay then, well, let's jump into lesson 1, which is all about understanding the speaking questions. And I'll see you there. Hi friends, this lesson is all about understanding the speaking questions that are on the Duolingo English Test. So just in case you don't know, there are 5 different speaking questions you'll have to answer when you take your own test. And they are these ones. We have read aloud, speak about the photo, read then speak, listen then speak, and then the speaking interview, which comes at the end of the test. Let's start by talking about the essential information of each of these questions. So here are the 5 speaking questions. For the read aloud question, you have to answer it in 20 seconds. You will have this between 3 and 7 times on the test, and it contributes to your comprehension and conversation subscore. Speak about the photo, you have 90 seconds. You only have this once on the test, and it goes towards your conversation and production subscores. Read then speak, 90 seconds, but you only have this once on the test, conversation and production subscores. Listen then speak is similar. You have 90 seconds, 2 times on the test, and this contributes to your conversation and production subscores as well. And the last one is the speaking sample. You have to speak for between 1 and 3 minutes. You have this once on the test, and this question is ungraded, so it will not affect your final score on the test. Okay, now I'm going to talk about each of these questions in more detail, and we'll start with read aloud. The read aloud question looks like this, and your job is to read one sentence aloud. You only have to read one sentence out loud at one time, which is good, and most of them will be statements. However, I have seen a couple questions come up, so pay attention to the punctuation at the end. Does it end in a full stop or does it end in a question mark? You're being assessed on how clearly you can read out a sentence. So using clear pronunciation is so important. Pay attention to the phonemes in the word, that is the individual sounds of each word, the intonation, the stress, and the pace. And read it just once, because you only have 20 seconds. I get quite a lot of questions in my YouTube comments about this question type. The question normally goes something like this: can I read it more than once if I make a mistake? And in my opinion, I don't think you should do that. 20 seconds is really short to read out a sentence like this, so just do it one time. If you make a mistake, just continue on and pay more attention to the next words as you're reading them. You don't really have time to start over again. Following on from that, the timer starts immediately. There is no preparation time here. 20 seconds is really short, but I think you should try to read it in your head before you start reading out loud. And use those punctuation marks to help you. So for example, if a sentence you're reading has a comma, then that's a really good place to pause. Punctuation marks are there to guide you. And it is important to read out the sentence as naturally as possible, so pay close attention to those punctuation marks. And the last one is important. Don't panic if you make a mistake. So those are some guidelines for the read aloud question. Now let's move on to a more difficult one, which is speak about the photo. On the test, you might have a photo like this, or this to speak about. And in my experience, this is the speaking question most students struggle with the most, because it's not often we describe photos in so much detail. But you have to for this test. So let's talk about some guidelines and tips to help you do this well. Okay, some guidelines. You have 90 seconds in total, but you must speak for a minimum of 30 seconds. But I recommend you try to speak for as long as you can. So that tip's really important. If you want to get the highest score for this question type, you should be trying to speak for longer than 30 seconds. If we take a look at the scoring criteria for this question type and all of the other speaking questions, we can zoom in on fluency. And fluency is all about the length of your answer. How much can you speak or write in a limited time? So even though the minimum requirement is 30 seconds, I recommend you try to aim for 60 to 90 seconds. I'm not saying that's easy, but if you want to get the best score, that's what I recommend. Luckily for this question type, you do have some preparation. You have 20 seconds. So you'll see the photo for 20 seconds before you begin speaking. So use those 20 seconds wisely. You can't re-record your answer. So just like the read aloud question, you don't have a chance to re-record your answer. Once you start, you should keep going all the way to the end. So if you make a mistake, do not panic. Just keep going and focusing on doing a better job later on in your answer. But what should you talk about when you're describing a photo? Well, let me give you some tips now. It's important that you don't just label what's in the photo. Don't just say things like, I can see a man, there is a bench, there is a church. Rather, it's much better for you to describe in detail what is happening. When you're describing in detail, you want to use descriptive language. Think of things like action verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions. All of these are descriptive language and they will help you to give a better answer. And my next tip will also help you, which is to learn a structure. I've talked about a structure in many videos in the past. Basically, you want to think about different ways of organizing your answer before you take the test. Learning a structure will give you the confidence to describe any photo easily. And a simple structure could go like this. Step 1, give a general overview of the photo. Step 2, talk about what is happening in the photo. Step 3, talk about where things are located in the photo. And step 4, speculate about what happened or what is going to happen based on the photo. And thinking of a structure like that can be really helpful to give you confidence to answer this question type really well on the test. Now let's take a look at the read then speak and the listen then speak questions together combined because they are quite similar. Again, I'll talk about some guidelines and some tips to help you answer in the best way you can. So for both of the questions, you have 90 seconds to speak in total, but with a minimum of 30 seconds. However, just like in the describe a photo question, it's important that you speak for as long as you can. For the read then speak, you have 20 seconds to read and understand the question. For the listen then speak, you have 20 seconds to listen and understand the questions. And you're able to listen to the question prompt 3 times within those 20 seconds. So for the read then speak question, as you're speaking your answer, you can see the prompt and each of the 3 questions. You don't have to memorize it. However, for the listen then speak question, you're only able to listen to the prompt within the 20 seconds of preparation time. After those 20 seconds is up, you are not able to re-listen to the prompt. So during those 20 seconds, you have to listen and remember the questions well, which of course is quite challenging. But I have some tips, so let's take a look here. It's important that you answer all of the components of the questions. So for the read then speak one, you usually have 3 questions, and it's a good idea to answer each question. Try to speak naturally about the topic. Do not use a memorized answer. That's really important. You are not allowed to use a memorized answer for any of the speaking questions on this test. So it's vital you answer the questions naturally. Do not memorize an answer before the test and use that. This is a test of your natural English, not your ability to memorize things in English. Make sure your answer stays on topic. If your answer goes off topic too much, then Duolingo might think you've used a memorized answer. So keep your answer based on the questions you've got. And use a variety of words and grammar. So using a variety of vocabulary and grammar is on the scoring criteria. It's actually the first 4 points, which shows how important it is. Remember, the Duolingo test is a test of your English, and vocabulary and grammar are of course really essential to having good English. So you want to use topic-related vocabulary based on whatever topic you get given, and a mixture of grammatical structures, some simple and some more complex. I have, of course, made lots of videos on this. You can go through my old YouTube videos to find them. Next up, we have use transition and linking phrases to help your answer become a lot more smooth and natural. I have made lessons on this, go back and check them. And for fluency, try to speak for at least 60 seconds. As I mentioned earlier, fluency is on the scoring criteria, so I highly recommend you aim for between 60 and 90 seconds. I know that's quite a long time, but you need to do that if you want to get the best score for this question type on the test. Lastly, let's take a look at the speaking sample or the interview on the exam. Again, here are some guidelines and tips. So the speaking sample is ungraded. It will not affect your final score. However, The video is sent to the university or institution you're applying to. Even though this question type is ungraded, it's super important you do it well because your university can view your recording. They can see and listen to your answer. So it's really important you make a good impression of yourself by taking this question type seriously and answering to the best of your ability. Your job is to speak for between 1 and 3 minutes about the topic you're given. Again, remember to stay on topic. The next button turns orange after 1 minute. The next button at the bottom of the screen will be grey. It will not turn orange until after 1 minute. After 1 minute, you can click it to go to the next question, which means that you should speak for at least 1 minute continuously, trying to answer the question you've been given. Some tips now. Try to use this as an opportunity to show off your personality. So talk about yourself and your ideas and experiences. Let the university you're applying to know how good you are. It's a good opportunity for the university to learn about your language skills, but also your personality. Now you need some speaking practice, and this video here will help you. It will help you to describe a photo well. It goes into that structure I mentioned earlier. So I'll see you there. Bye. Hi friends, welcome to this Duolingo English Test speaking lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at the describe a photo through speaking question type. This question type is so important because it contributes heavily to your production subscore, and I know a lot of you want to get a good score in production. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to describe a photo well through speaking. But before we begin that, if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm teacher Luke from DETready.com. If you're looking for more tools to study for the Duolingo English Test, I recommend you visit our website. That's DETready.com. Okay, anyway, back to this lesson. Describing a photo is not an easy thing to do in English, so I think this video is going to be so helpful. So what type of photos might you get for this question? Let's take a look at some sample ones now. There are many different types of photos on this test. Some might look like this one, or this one. Even though there are lots of types of photos, the way you describe them can be the same, which I will show you later in my tips. If you learn a strategy like I'll show you, then you don't have to worry about the type of photo you get. Let's talk more about this question and then I'll show you those tips. Here are the key points of this question type. You have 90 seconds to complete it, but you need to speak for at least 30 seconds. So the minimum requirement is 30 seconds, but I highly recommend you speak for longer. And of course, I will show you how to do that later in this video. For this question type, you have 20 seconds to prepare. Luckily, you can see the photo while speaking, so you don't have to memorize it or anything like that. And it's important to know that you cannot re-record your answer. You only have one chance to do this correctly, and it contributes to your production and conversation subscores. So those are the key points. The important ones are that you need to speak for over 30 seconds and that you cannot re-record your answer. Remember, you only have one chance at this. If you make a mistake, just continue. Don't start over again. Now let's take a look at the scoring criteria for this question type, and there are 4 main categories you need to be aware of. The first category is content. Basically, how well do you describe the photo? Next is grammar and vocabulary. Duolingo are looking for the level and variety of your grammatical structures and your vocabulary. Next is fluency, and in the Duolingo official guidebook, they say that fluency is how long you can talk for in a limited time. And lastly, we have pronunciation, which is how clearly you can speak. Knowing how you're scored is so important because now you can tailor your answers around this scoring criteria. Remember, you should describe the photo as well as you can, use a variety of grammar and vocabulary, use clear pronunciation, and speak for as long as you can. If you do all 4 of those things, you'll score very high for this question type. But now let's go into some specifics. How can you score well on this question type based on this criteria? Well, I have 5 tips for you to help you score better, and each tip is equally important, so watch this video all the way to the end from now. It will help you a lot when you do this question on the Duolingo English Test. And the first tip is to help you score better on content, and the tip is don't label. So what do I mean by labeling? Well, if you look at this photograph here, if a student just labeled the photograph, then the answer would be something like this. It's a coffee shop. I see a barista. There are lots of shelves and there is one chair. If you just label the photo like I did here as an example, then you won't score high for content or grammar and vocabulary. Why? Well, you're not describing the picture fully, you're just labeling what is in it, and you're only using simple grammatical structures. So don't do that. Instead, you want to describe using descriptive language. That way you'll describe the photo better and you'll use more complex grammar and vocabulary, both of which will help you get a really good score for this question type. And here's a better example of that. This is a photo of a stylish and modern coffee shop. Behind the counter, there are several shelves that have been hung on the wall with plants, bags of coffee, and other items placed on them. An empty wooden chair is facing the counter on the left of the photo. So this example has lots of descriptive language. These words and phrases in red are what we would consider descriptive language. Things like adjectives, prepositions, and extra information to describe the photo well. It's important to remember that to get a really good score for this question, you need to use descriptive language in your answer, like in this example here. Don't just label it. If you label, you will not get a good score for this question type. Of course, describing a photo in this much detail is not easy, so you do need to practice this a lot. On top of practicing, my other tips in this video will help you a lot. So let's move on to tip number 2, which is to learn some introductory statements. Sometimes the hardest thing to do when you're answering a speaking question is actually to begin speaking. A lot of students get stuck because they don't know how to begin. So learning some introductory statements, basically sentences to introduce your answer, will be really helpful. And I have 5 for you here. You can say, this is a picture of. This photo shows. In this image there are. Or you can use more adjectives in your answer. For example, this is a stunning photograph of. You can change stunning with another adjective, like beautiful. You can also say, in this photo I can see. So here are some examples. This is a photograph of a stylish coffee shop with a barista working behind the counter. This is an image of a young girl riding a horse down a country lane. This is a photo of a highway that leads to a big urban city. And notice in these examples that we use the present simple or present continuous when describing a photo. So you've given your first sentence, that's great, but now you need to go into detail. And one good way to do that is to describe the location of things in the photo. Basically, talking about where things are in the photograph. And this is a great way to go into detail for your answer. So let's look at how you can do that now. Tip 3, what is where? And there are some ways to do this. You might want to start from left to right, or right to left, top to bottom, or bottom to top, far to near, or near to far. If you go in a logical order and stick to it, then describing where things are located in a photo becomes a lot easier. And you should also use prepositional phrases for this. To the left, to the right, on top of, above, at the top, in the center or in the middle, in the corner, at the bottom, under, beneath, underneath, or below. Here are a bunch of extra different ones you can use as well. Using these types of phrases when describing a photo will be great because you'll describe the photo in lots of detail. That'll get you a good score for content, and also you'll get a good score for vocabulary, because if you use these phrases well, then you'll have a diverse set of vocabulary in your answer, and that's what Duolingo want to see. Let me show you how to use these in a sample answer. Behind the counter, there are several shelves that have been hung on the wall with plants, bags of coffee, and other items placed on them. In front of the shelves, a barista is hard at work, probably making a cup of coffee. The menu is written on the tall blackboard, which is to the left of the barista. Also, on the right side of the photo, there's a large coffee machine, and next to it, there are 3 other machines that are used to make coffee. As you can see, using these prepositional phrases is a great way to describe a photo because your answer becomes very descriptive. And like I said, that's what Duolingo want you to do. So that was tip number 3, talking about what is where in the photo, but that's not enough. you can't speak for 60 to 90 seconds just using this technique. You might also want to talk about who is doing what, and that's tip number 4. Who is doing what? In this tip, we want to look at the people or objects in the photo and describe what they are doing. You can use the present continuous and action verbs to do this well. So let's take a look at this photo. What are the two ladies in this photo doing? Here's an example answer. The woman in the navy jacket is pointing a pen at the laptop, while the lady in red is reading the information on the screen. How about this photo again? You could say, the barista is working behind the counter and waiting for customers to serve. If there are people or animals or something moving in the photo, then this becomes very easy. You just use the present continuous tense. But what if you get a photo which doesn't have an object or a person moving? What can you do then? Well, let's take a look here. If there's no actions in the photo, you should use the present simple plus an adjective. For example, the boat is stuck on the beach. As you can see here, you don't need to use complex or difficult grammar to do this well. You just need to use the present continuous or present simple tense. When we're describing a photo in English, we often just use the present tenses. Okay, now you've learned how to give an introductory statement, talk about the location of things, and talk about who is doing what. If you can do those 3 things really well, that will really help you get a better score. But there's one more thing you need to do to get the highest score, and that's use really descriptive language to add details, and that's tip number 5. Use descriptive language. Now, the first easy way to use descriptive language to add details is to use adjectives. Remember, adjectives describe nouns in more detail, and I highly recommend you use as many adjectives as you can when describing the photo. It will boost your score for vocabulary and content. Let's take a look at some examples. My simple sentence could be, this is a photo of a highway that leads to a city. Okay, that's not bad, but let's use some adjectives to describe this photo better. For example, this is a photo of a busy highway that leads to a large city. How about this example? This is a photo of a man who is giving a presentation. With some adjectives, your answer could be, this is a photo of a tall man who is giving an important presentation. Using adjectives is a fantastic way to add more details and information to your answer. And you don't need to use complex or really difficult adjectives, just simple ones will do fine. You can also use adverbs as well. Remember, adverbs modify a verb. They give more information about the verb. Let's take a look at some examples. This photo, the beautiful horses are galloping through the green field. With an adverb, you can say, the beautiful horses are quickly galloping through the green field. In this sentence, the adverb is after the be verb. But it could also come at the end of the sentence, like this. The beautiful horses are galloping through the green field quickly. Another example, this is an image of a young girl riding a horse down a country lane. With an adverb, this is an image of a young girl riding a horse carefully down a country lane. Or again at the end of the sentence. Those are 5 tips. Now let's look at a full answer to show you how it's constructed from start to finish. This is a photo of a coffee shop with a barista behind the shop counter. The barista is working, possibly making some coffee, and waiting for customers to serve. Behind the counter, there are several shelves that have been hung on the wall with plants, bags of coffee, and other items placed on them. The menu is written on the tall blackboard, which is to the left of the barista. Also, on the right side of the photo, there's a large coffee machine. And next to it, there are 3 other machines that are used to make coffee. The coffee shop's design is very stylish and natural, because the counter and the shelves are made of wood, and the chair in front of the counter is also wooden. Even though there aren't any customers present at the moment, I think it's likely a popular place for local residents and tourists to visit. Now you know how to describe a photo well through speaking, but what about through writing? This video here will help you with that. You'll learn a structure to describe a photo through writing, and I'll show you lots and lots of examples. So click here and I'll see you in this video. Bye. Hi friends, in this video we're going to take a look at the describe a photo through speaking question on the Duolingo English test. You know, the one that looks like this. So on the Duolingo English test, you have to describe a photo through writing and through speaking. And like I said, this video is all about the speaking version. It's a pretty important question on this Duolingo English test, so I think this video will help you. We're going to do three things. Firstly, we're going to take a look at the key points of this question type so you can understand what it's all about. Then I'm going to give you some tips on what to say when describing a photo. And after that, I've prepared 7 photos with 7 sample answers for you. Analyzing these sample answers will be greatly beneficial for you. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. Okay, we will start with the key points in just one moment, but I want to say that if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm teacher Luke from detready.com. Visit our website to get information about the Duolingo English test. We have some online courses, and we have a practice platform. When you sign up to our practice platform, you can practice all of the different question types on the Duolingo English test, and you can see your answers immediately. There is a free version, so you can sign up for free. You can find links to this below in the description. Okay then, well, let's get back to this Duolingo test lesson. Let's take a look at the key points of this describe a photo question. Okay then, well, firstly, of course, your job is to describe a photo that's presented to you on a screen through speaking. It's a good idea to try to describe the photo as if to someone who can't see it. In total, you have 90 seconds to speak, and you need to speak for at least 30 seconds, but you get 90 seconds in total. So that's an important point. You need to speak for at least 30 seconds, that's the minimum requirement, but in total you have 90 seconds to speak. After 30 seconds is up, the orange next button will appear. You can click that to go to the next question. However, I strongly suggest that you try to speak for longer than 30 seconds. And the reason I suggest this is because if you go to the Duolingo official guide and you look at their criteria for this question or all of the other speaking questions, under fluency, it says how much you can say or write in a limited time. And this indicates to me that you should be trying to speak for as long as possible. So in my opinion, definitely trying to speak for over 60 seconds will help you to get a better score for fluency. Okay, let's take a look at the other key points. So for this question type, you have 20 seconds to prepare. So this is quite different than the write about a photo question type. On that writing one, you have no preparation time. But for this one, you have 20 seconds to look at the photo and prepare mentally. Remember, you're not allowed to take notes in this Duolingo English test, so all the preparation needs to be done mentally, in your head. Make sure you don't write anything because you will get disqualified for that. And luckily, you can see the image as you're speaking, so that makes it a bit easier. And you need to remember that you cannot re-record your answer. So you only get one shot at this. If you stumble or make a mistake, just keep going. Don't start again. You're not able to re-record or do your answer again. So if you make a mistake, just keep going. You only get this question type once on the test, and it contributes to your conversation and production subscores. Okay, so those were some of the key points done. We'll talk now about what you can say when you're describing a photo. But very quickly, before we look at what you can say, I just want to mention that I have a practice platform where you can practice this question type. When you sign up to our practice platform here, it looks like this. You can practice all of the different questions on the Duolingo English test, including this speak about a photo one. We've prepared hundreds of photos for you to practice with, and you can record your answer and listen back. We also show you plenty of sample answers too. Looking at and analyzing lots of sample answers is a great way to prepare for this question type. So if you're interested in signing up to this practice platform, there is a link below in the description. There is a free version, so go ahead and try it. Okay, now let's talk about what you can actually say when you're describing a photo on this test. Describing a photo is not that easy because actually we don't do that quite often in real life. So a lot of students, when they do this question type, they get stuck. They don't know what to say. And because you've got to speak for a long time, it becomes extra hard. So let me give you some ideas of what you can talk about now. Okay, so what to say? Firstly, I actually recommend that you give a general statement first. So basically, what's the photo of? What's the main subject in the photo? So let's take this photo for example. A general statement might look like this. This is a photo of 6 or 7 firefighters getting out of a red helicopter. So starting your description with a general statement like this, in my opinion, is a good way to begin because it's an easy way to get going. It's easy to talk generally about what the whole photo is of before you go into detail. And you can use phrases like this. This is a photo of. This image shows. In this photograph, there is, or there are. If you want to be fancy, you can say something like, this photo depicts. However, that's quite formal. I don't think anyone says depicts when they're speaking. But anyway, using a general statement is a good way to start. And after you've given your general statement, then you can go into some more detail. Let me show you how to do that now. Okay, so to go into detail, you can talk about the actions of the people or the subjects in the photo. Basically, what are they doing? A few of the firefighters are chatting casually, while the others are taking some items out of the helicopter. So if your photo has a group of people, or just one person, or an animal, or anything living, anything that can move, then you can describe the actions of that main subject. In my opinion, this is an easy thing to talk about because you just use action verbs with the present continuous. Just like I did. I said, these firefighters are chatting casually. I think this is an easy way to add detail to your photo description. But it's not the only way. Now let's take a look at how you can describe the location of the different things or people in the photo. Okay, like I just said, you can think about the location, and for this you can use prepositional phrases. They are in an open grassy field, and there's a small forest in the background. In this example, I used in the background, and that's a prepositional phrase. These phrases are used to indicate where things are in the photograph. You can also think about speculation. You don't have to say what's literally happening in the photo, you can speculate. To speculate, you can use language like might, may, must, or phrases like, if I had to guess, I'd say. And here's an example. If I had to guess, I'd say they're probably getting ready to do practice drills. Okay, so when you are describing a photo, you can speculate. You can make guesses about what has happened or what is going to happen. However, it's really important that your guess or speculation is related to the photo. You can't go away or go off topic too much. If you do that, you'll lose points for task relevance. So make sure when you speculate, it's about the photograph. Just like in my example, I said, if I had to guess, I'd say they're getting ready to do practice drills. That's me speculating about what's happening in this photo. So that's okay. So we've looked at the key points of this question type, and I've given you some tips on what to say. Now let's do some practice. So I've prepared 7 photos for you and 7 sample answers. I'll show one photo at a time, give you 90 seconds to practice speaking out your answer, and then I'll show you my sample answers. I strongly suggest that as you go through this video, you actually do speak out your answer. It'll be great practice for you. Also, look at my sample answers closely and analyze them and get ideas of what you can say next. Okay then, well, let's get to it.
Here, in this photo, I can see a group of friends, around 7 or 8 people in total, who are sat around a campfire in a forest at night. It is dark and the light of the fire is illuminating the group. They don't seem to be too cold as some are wearing t-shirts, so I think this photo was probably taken in summer. They are having a relaxing evening by the fire and chatting with each other. You can see a couple of tents in the background where they're probably going to sleep. This photo is of a hot air balloon with happy birthday written in big bold letters on it. The balloon is blue, red, and white, and it is in a really beautiful green field with some trees on the right-hand side. There's a group of people in the basket and getting ready for liftoff. 3 men are standing on the grass next to the balloon and it looks like they're cheering the people in the basket. In the background, there are a few really old-fashioned wooden houses on the hill. Based on the landscape and the style of the houses, I think that this photo was taken in Europe. In this photo, a woman is backstage at a rock concert. She's watching the band play from the side rather than from the front like the rest of the crowd. She has her 2 arms in the air and looks to be dancing. It also looks like she's alone since there aren't many people around her. The band is in the background of this photograph, and it looks like there are 5 or 6 members all playing different instruments. I can see a few of them playing guitar and one on the keyboard. It must be a great concert. This photo shows two men about to begin an arm wrestling match. Although you cannot see most of their faces, you can tell that the man on the left is more determined since he is pressing his lips together hard. This seems to be a group of friends having a party and playing some games. Their friends have upped the stakes by making bets on who they think will be victorious. There's a surprisingly large amount of money on the table for the bet. I guess that the man on the left will win because, as I mentioned before, he looks more determined and serious. This photo shows an airplane on a runway. The plane has either just landed or is being prepared for takeoff. I can see two people next to the plane, and they're wearing yellow high-visibility vests, which suggests to me that they work at the airport. They're either loading or unloading the passengers' baggage. The tunnel that the passengers use to board the plane is attached to the side of the plane to allow the passengers on or off. The weather looks quite nice, so I think it's probably a nice day to fly. This is an image of a conductor at a concert in the middle of conducting a musical piece. He's holding his baton in his right hand and using his left hand to gesture to the musicians. He's wearing a black suit, a white shirt and a white bow tie. His eyes are extremely focused on the person he's looking at to his left, but we can't see who that person is. We can only see one musician, but there must be many more on either side of the conductor. In this photo, a couple is in a cafe drinking some coffee. The woman is on the left of the photo and the man is next to her. It looks like the woman in the photo is holding the man's hand while also holding a mug of coffee. You can see that the woman is wearing a wedding ring, so I guess that they're a married couple. I don't know why I think this, but it looks to me that the woman is trying to console the man. It's hard to say for sure because we can't see his face, but I guess he's upset over something and talking to the woman about it.
And that's it, well done. How was that? Was it easy or difficult? Please let me know below in the comments. And if you want more practice on the different questions on the Duolingo English test, I recommend you watch this video here or this one here next. Okay, that's it from me today. Thank you very much and I'll see you next week. Bye. Hi everyone, I'm Luke, an expert Duolingo English test teacher, and today we're going to talk about the speaking tasks. Specifically, the independent or the extended speaking task, where you have to talk about a topic for around 90 seconds. And you have to do this 3 times in the test. You also have to describe a picture. That's a different task, and if you want to find out more information about that, hit this card here. But this video is all about the extended speaking task, where you've got to talk about a topic for around 90 seconds. Usually the topics are pretty simple. Things like work, study, music, art, etc. But being able to talk about one of these topics for 90 seconds fluently is quite challenging. So in today's video, I'm going to give you some top tips to help you with this task. But first, let's take a look at what you've got to do exactly. So these are the different types of speaking tasks you have to do in the Duolingo test. One task is describing a picture. I did a long video on how to do this well. Find the link in the description. Then you have 3 independent speaking tasks. 2 of these are introduced to you with written prompts, and 1 is with an oral prompt. Oral just means through listening. The written prompt looks like this. You have between 20 and 30 seconds to prepare, and you just click that Record Now button at the bottom when you're ready. It says that you should speak for at least 30 seconds about the questions below. And while that's true, I highly recommend that you speak for longer. So in this task, you actually have 90 seconds to answer this question. And like I mentioned, I strongly recommend that you speak for at least 80 seconds. Because at the end of the day, this is an English test where you're supposed to show off your English. So the more you talk, the more chance you have to use better vocabulary or advanced grammatical structures, both of which will help you with your overall score. So definitely keep this in mind. Try to speak for at least 80 seconds. So when you're here, after 30 seconds, this next box in the corner will light up, so you can click that as soon as you've finished. So that was the written prompt, but you also have an oral prompt. This is a lot harder. So what happens here is that you actually get given a question or a prompt through listening. So you have to listen and respond correctly to the question you hear. Of course, this tests both your listening and speaking skills. Again, for this task, you have 90 seconds to speak. And you can replay the question up to 3 times. So if you want to listen to it again, just click this speaker button. But remember, you only have 3 times to do this. And when you've answered the question fully, just click next and you can go on to the next question. So just to remind you, you have 3 extended speaking tasks in this test, 2 with a written prompt and 1 with an oral prompt. But the way you answer should be the same. The oral prompt is just there to test your listening skills and to check how well you respond to a listening question. Okay, so now let's take a look at my top tips for answering this task in the best way possible. Okay, my top tip number 1 is to answer the prompts. So on test day, when you're doing this task, you'll get a prompt like this. Talk about a book you recently read. This is the main topic. And then you'll have 4 questions to guide you through your answer. I highly recommend that you go through all of these questions, because talking for 90 seconds without these prompts can be very challenging. So you can just simply go question to question to question to question, and answering them with lots of detail, and that should take you to 90 seconds. I've seen a lot of teachers talking about these prompts and how students should just ignore them and talk about their own story, but to be honest, I think it's much easier just to answer these questions. So I know that's a really simple tip, but sometimes the simple tips are the best. So be sure to answer those prompts. Tip number 2 is to remember to always answer the questions, but then expand on your answer. Again, remember that this is an English proficiency test, so you have to show off your English. So you shouldn't just answer the question in a simple way, you should answer and expand. So how can you expand? Well, you can elaborate, that means talk more about your answer. You can give your opinion, or you can give someone else's opinion, and you can also give some examples. So I know this is another simple tip, but you'd be surprised how many students just give a simple answer, and they think that's enough, but it's not. Remember, you always have to give a simple answer, but then expand on it. Because you want to show the examiner, or in this case the computer, that you're really good at English. So remember, answer and expand. Answer and expand. So let me show you an example. So let's say this is our topic. Talk about a book that you read recently. And the prompts are, what was the title? What was it about? How did you first hear of it? What did you like or dislike about it? So for the first question, what was the title? This is an example of how you can answer a simple question like this, but expand on your answer to show off your English. So this is my example. A book that I've read recently, which really inspired me, was called Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, by the famous physicist Dr. Feynman. This book is a collection of personal stories, both hilarious and thought-provoking, from Dr. Feynman's life. So let's take a look at this. The question, what was the title, is a really simple question, and a very simple answer would just be, a book that I've read recently was called Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. If I just stop there, I'm only answering the question, but I'm not elaborating. So as you can see in this example, all of the parts in green are the parts which I elaborated. Remember, elaborate means to give more information. So the parts that I elaborated, I said, which really inspired me. And then I added a little bit more detail about the book. So this is a very simple way to elaborate about this topic, the book. You can talk about the author, or about the genre of the book, and what were your reactions to the book. So this is a good way of expanding the simple question, what was the title? Now let's take a look at the second question, which is, what was it about? So this is also an example answer, and again I elaborated. So let me show you. This book is mainly about all the life lessons that Dr. Feynman learned in his amazing life. For instance, do things that you love as best as you can. As this book is a collection of stories from his life rather than a novel, it doesn't really have a plot. Each chapter covers one important part of his life, such as his time at university or the time when he met Albert Einstein, which, in my opinion, was the most fascinating chapter. So in this section, in order to elaborate, I gave examples. I said, for instance, do things that you love as best as you can. And at the bottom, I said, such as his time at university or the time when he met Albert Einstein. So here, such as provides examples to what I said earlier. Each chapter covers one important part of his life. So as you can see from these two, adding examples is a great and easy way to elaborate. Then the last part, which is in purple, is a way to elaborate by showing your opinion. There are lots of different phrases you can use to share your opinion. In my opinion is the simplest one, but you could also say, as far as I'm concerned, or in my point of view. These are just some examples. So I hope this showed you some good ways to expand on your simple answers. Now let's take a look at tip number 3, which is transition words. Using transition words will help your answer to sound more fluent and more coherent. And there are lots of different transition words you can use. If you want to move on to the next question, it's a good idea to use one of these transition words. You can say, okay, turn into the next question. Moving on to question 3. Or, as for question 3. These are simple and smooth ways to transition from question to question. You can also use these transition words when you are giving your answer. So you can signpost your ideas by saying first, second, third, or firstly, secondly, thirdly. When you want to give more information, you can say what's more, furthermore, or moreover. And when you're about to finish your answer, you can say finally. Also, if you forgot to mention something important, but would like to mention it at the end, you can say, one more thing I'd like to talk about is, and then talk about your idea. So remember, it's important to use transition words like these because it'll make your answer a lot more smooth and make your answer sound a lot more organized. So practice using these. Okay, moving on to my final tip, which is tip number 4. This tip is very useful, and it is to look out for question triggers. So what is a question trigger? Well, different questions have words which require a certain type of answer. So here are 6 common questions you might see on this speaking task on the Duolingo English Test, and the words in green are the trigger. They are triggers because they should trigger a certain answer or a certain response. And that response usually has a specific grammar structure you should use. So let's take a look. The first one, how did you first hear of this book? So of course the word did is a past tense, so when you answer this question, you have to respond using one of the past tenses. So the past simple, the past continuous, past perfect, used to. That one's quite straightforward. The next question, will you read a similar book? This one refers to the future. So again, you have to respond using one of the correct future tenses. Will, going to, the present continuous, the future perfect, or the future continuous. Be sure to use the correct tense for the idea that you are talking about. Now they get a little bit more tricky. So this question is quite common. How long have you been doing something? For this, you need to respond using the present perfect continuous. The present continuous is have plus been plus a verb with ing. And we use this to talk about an ongoing action that started in the past. So if a question says, how long have you been doing something? You should respond like this. I've been doing this for 3 years, 4 years, or whatever. But you have to respond using the correct tense. So pay attention to the question. 4 is particularly difficult, and a lot of students lose points by answering this question wrong. This question is a hypothetical question. They usually come in the would form. So would you recommend this book? So to answer this correctly, you have to respond in a hypothetical way. So you could say something like, yes, I would recommend this book because I thought it was really inspiring. So if a question has would in it, you shouldn't answer using the simple past. So for this question, would you recommend the book to someone? You shouldn't say, yes, I did, or yes, I will. You should respond in a hypothetical way. For example, yes, I would recommend this book because I found it very interesting. Or, no, I don't think I would recommend this book because it wasn't very good. You could also use if sentences here too, because if sentences are hypothetical. So a simple answer would be, sure, if someone asked me about this book, I would recommend it. So definitely pay attention for the would questions. And the last 2 are opinion questions. For example, why questions, or what do you or what did you like or dislike about something? These questions expect you to share your opinion, so you should use opinion phrases like, in my opinion, from my point of view, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see how this is used in a real example. So let's use the same prompt as earlier. Talk about a book that you read recently. And we'll answer this question. How did you first hear of it? So I could say, turning to the next question, the first time I heard of this book was on a podcast where 2 people were talking about the most influential books that they've ever read. Even though I hadn't heard of Dr. Feynman then, the way they talked about him was amazing. So as soon as I finished listening to the podcast, I went straight out to the bookstore to buy the book. So as you can see here, the question, how did you first hear of it, required an answer using the past tense. But I started off by saying, turning to the next question. Remember, this was a transition word. This is a good way to move from one question to the next one. And then throughout my answer, I use the different past tenses. Heard is a simple past tense. Were talking about is the past continuous. Hadn't heard was the past perfect. And talked, finished, and went are the past simple. Definitely practice using all the different past tenses in a story like this because it'll help you get a higher score in grammatical accuracy and complexity. Okay, so those were some of my top tips for answering the 90-second extended speaking on the Duolingo English test. Just to remind you, they were: answer the prompts, answer and expand, use transition words, and look out for question triggers. And now it's your turn. I'm going to give you a question prompt and 90 seconds to answer. This is a real question from the Duolingo English test. Definitely try to answer this question through speaking for 90 seconds, but if you want me to give you some feedback, write your answer below in the comments and I'll check. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. So how did you find that? 90 seconds is quite long, isn't it? But I hope my top tips helped you to answer this question fluently and with a lot more information in order to help you get a better score. Okay, and that's it from me today. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful and I'll see you next time. Take care. Hi friends, this video is a practice Duolingo test video all about the read then speak question type. You know, this one. In this lesson, I've prepared 7 practice questions for you with 7 sample answers. And I think this will be really helpful because practicing is one of the best ways to prepare for this exam, or in fact, any exam. And the questions I've made are very similar to the ones on the real Duolingo English test. Okay, we will get to the practice in just one moment, but I want to say that if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm teacher Luke from DETready.com. Visit our website to find more information about the Duolingo English test. We have some courses to help you with your production sub-score, and we have a new practice platform. I think this is really helpful, and there is a free version, so you might as well give it a try. You can find links to it below in the description. Okay, back to this lesson. Firstly, we'll take a look at the key points of this question type, just to remind you what it's about, and then we'll jump into the practice. So let's start with the key points. Okay, we'll go over these very quickly. So your job is simply to read a prompt, then respond through speaking. When the prompt first comes up, you have 20 seconds to read and think before you begin speaking. So that's really useful to know. Before you begin speaking, you get 20 seconds to read the prompt and think about your answer. Remember, you're not allowed to take notes, so just do all of your planning in your head. You get 20 seconds to do that, but you can see the prompt when you're speaking. So that makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, like I just mentioned, you can see the question while you're speaking, so that's good. And you should try to answer all the components to the question. So it's really useful to answer all of the components to the prompt. Usually there'll be a couple bullet points with different questions for you, all related to the topic. And it's useful to answer those questions because it means that you can speak for longer and it keeps you on track and it keeps you on topic. It's very important that your answer is closely related to the topic of the prompt. Task relevance is on the criteria, and that's what that means. Is your answer related to the prompt? So just be careful with that. So you get 90 seconds to speak, but you should speak for at least 30 seconds. So you need to speak for at least 30 seconds. That's the minimum requirement, but I strongly recommend you try to speak for longer, somewhere between 60 to 80 seconds, because fluency is on the scoring criteria and the amount or the length of your speech is related to fluency. So I recommend you try to speak for as long as you can. You'll get this twice on the test, and it contributes to your conversation and production subscores. So I know a lot of students struggle to get a good score in production, and if that's you, then I highly recommend you study this video very closely because doing this question type well will be really helpful for you. Okay then, well let's jump into it. Here is question number 1.
I recently gave my younger brother a book as a graduation gift. The book is titled, How to Own the World, and it's on the topic of personal finance and investing. The reason I gave this to my younger brother is because it's a book that I wish I had read earlier in my life. The book simply guides you on the best and safest ways to invest your money. And one of the key points is to start investing as early as possible, ideally when you're in your early 20s. That's why I gifted this book to my younger brother as he is only 21 years old and just about to start his first job. Okay, moving on to the next question. To be honest, I felt quite proud to have been able to share this book with my brother because I honestly think it will improve his life, financially speaking, which of course is really important. And I also felt a little bit jealous. He's about 10 years younger than I am, and I wish I could go back in time and read this book and start investing my money sensibly at 21 years old. So yeah, that's a gift that I have given to someone recently.
I'd like to talk about horse riding, which has been my hobby since I was around 10 years old. I'm actually the joint owner of a horse with two of my friends, and we take turns looking after him, cleaning the stable, and so on. I don't have a part-time job, so I spend most of my weekends at the stable. Taking care of a horse is quite dirty business, so it's obviously very different from studying at college. That means I can forget about my classes during the week when I'm at the stable on the weekend. There's quite a large field next to the stable, and I just get a wonderful sense of freedom when I'm riding around on my horse. College seems a million miles away when I'm riding. Do I think other people would enjoy horse riding? Yes, absolutely. I think everyone should give it a try. Horses are absolutely wonderful animals. They're very gentle and intelligent. If you ever have the chance to ride a horse, you should definitely give it a try.
So much has changed for the news industry since the rise of the internet. However, I agree that newspapers still have importance. The main advantage of the printed newspaper is that it does not require any technical ability to read. This offers the reader a high level of flexibility. The printed newspaper can be read in any place at any time. For instance, a person may read the paper while commuting to and from work. Secondly, the reader can absorb the information offered at his own pace. What is more, the level of importance of each news story is made more obvious by the use of different headline fonts. For these reasons, I believe that printed newspapers are still relevant today. There are many festivals in my country, but the most popular one is Chinese New Year. This is the occasion that people celebrate with great joy, hope, and festivity with their beloved ones. It is often celebrated with fireworks, and people send each other their best wishes for an awesome year ahead. Many people believe that red is considered a lucky color for the new year. That's why people often choose to dress in vivid red as a way to eliminate bad luck and welcome good things for the new year. My country also has some unique traditions like lucky money, preparing homemade food, or decorating home in the first days of the year. It's also a good time for family reunions and New Year resolutions.
To be completely honest, I often feel under pressure, especially at work. That being said, throughout my working career, I have figured out how to handle being under pressure. For instance, one time, I was supposed to deliver a project to an important client for my company in just 5 days, which isn't a long time at all. I was working on this with my coworker, but he got sick and had to take a few days off work. While I felt shocked and stressed at first, I tried to look at it differently and see it as an opportunity. So instead of getting stressed, I came up with a very detailed schedule that enabled me to finish the project on time. Since then, I've always kept a detailed schedule, and doing this has helped me to manage the pressures associated with my work.
I played basketball a lot when I was younger, and I have great memories from that time. I loved playing with my friends in the school playground at lunchtime, and I was actually pretty good. I participated in a few competitions with my team, and although we never won, they were always great fun. Basketball was a great way for me to hang out with friends and to get some exercise. I'm sure that the reason I've been so healthy in my life is because I played so much when I was younger. Some of my other friends started smoking and drinking alcohol when we were in school together, but luckily I was so focused on basketball that I didn't do any of that bad and unhealthy stuff. I'm really thankful that my school encouraged us to play a sport, and that some of the teachers were dedicated to coaching us. Well, to be honest, in my country, it's not that important to have a meal together with your family. If they're outside or working, then you usually have a meal by yourself. It's not important to wait for someone to begin eating. That being said, if all family members are at home, then we normally prefer to eat together. In the UK, where I live now, the only eating custom that I'm aware of is having a family lunch on Sundays. Usually, we all get together at someone's house or the local pub and enjoy a nice big lunch with meat, vegetables, and gravy. However, sadly this custom is not as popular with younger people nowadays. I hope this custom remains because I really love going to the pub with all my family for Sunday lunch.
And nice one! You finished 7 practice questions with sample answers. How was it? Was it easy? Was it hard? Let me know below in the comments. And if you want to study more with me, I recommend you watch this video here next or this one here. Okay, that's all from me. I'll be back next week with another video, so I'll see you then. Bye. Hi friends, this video is all about the listen then speak question type on the Duolingo English test. You know, the one that looks like this. So this question type is really hard because it requires you to listen and understand a prompt or a question and then respond through speaking. You have to speak for at least 30 seconds and you have 90 seconds in total. And it's hard because it involves those two skills, listening and then speaking. And that's why I've made this video to help you. In this video, we're going to do 3 things. Firstly, we'll take a look at the key points of this question type. This will help you to understand what this question is all about. Then I'm going to give you some really useful tips. And at the end, we're going to do lots and lots of practice and I'll show you a full sample answer. Okay, we will jump into the key points in just one moment, but I want to say that if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Teacher Luke from detready.com. Visit our website to find information about the Duolingo English test. We have some courses to help you, specifically with writing, and we have a practice platform. When you sign up to our practice platform, you can practice all of the different question types on the Duolingo English test, and you can see the answers immediately. This, of course, will be greatly helpful for you when you're studying for the Duolingo English test. Okay, back to this lesson. Like I said, firstly, we'll take a look at the key points of this question type. So let's do that right now. Okay, so let's take a look at the key points. The thing you've got to do is, of course, listen to a prompt and then respond through speaking. And you can listen to the prompt 3 times within 20 seconds. So we use the word prompt here because the prompt can either be a question, something like, what do you think about blah blah, or it can be a statement, like, describe your favorite childhood memory. And you get to listen to this prompt 3 times, as long as it's within 20 seconds. After 20 seconds is up, then you have to begin speaking. So I strongly recommend that you listen 3 times, even if you do think you understand it the first or second time. After the 20 seconds is up, you can't listen again. And of course, it's not shown in writing since this is a listen then speak question. So it's really important that you are able to understand the prompt within those 20 seconds given to you. Okay, there are more key points, of course. Okay, the next key point is that it's really important that you actually respond or answer the prompt given to you, because task relevance is on the scoring criteria. So task relevance refers to how well you actually answer the question or the prompt given. If you do talk about a different topic, then you'll lose a lot of points for task relevance, because it shows that you weren't able to understand the question. So make sure before you start speaking that you really do understand exactly what was said, and that your response, your answer, is related to that topic. So when you're answering, you have 90 seconds in total to answer. But importantly, you need to speak for at least 30 seconds. So the rule is that you should speak for at least 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, you can click on the next button to go to the next question. However, I recommend you try to speak much longer than that, at least for 60 seconds. Again, if you take a look at the scoring criteria for the production questions on the Duolingo English test, fluency is one of the points they mention. And one aspect of fluency is about how long you can speak for. So if you can speak for longer than 30 seconds, let's say 60 to 70 seconds, then you will get a better score for fluency. So just try to speak as much as you can when you're answering these prompts. Now, according to the Duolingo Test guidebook, which is available on their website, you only get this once on the test. Okay, so this one's a bit interesting. So in the Duolingo Test guidebook, they say that you should only get this question once on the test. However, when I took the test a few months ago, I actually had it twice. And I've seen that a couple of my students on my Facebook group said the same thing. They had it twice, not once. So officially, you should only have it once, but I think sometimes you can get it twice. So just be prepared for that. And this contributes to your conversation and production subscores. And lastly, this is important, this question type is actually not on the practice test. Interestingly, this question type is not on the practice test. If you want to practice speaking on the official practice test, then you only can practice the read then respond one, but not this listen and respond one. I don't know why, but it's not, and you need to know that. And like I mentioned, this question contributes to your conversation and production subscore, and I know a lot of students struggle to get a good score in production, so if you can do this question type really well, it will surely be helpful for you. And I've got some really useful tips to help you do well, so let's take a look at these tips now. As I mentioned earlier, it's really important that you make sure that you understand the prompt before you begin speaking. And in order to understand, I strongly suggest that you do listen 3 times, even if you've understood it the first time. So I think that one's really important. Even if you understood the prompt the first time, I strongly suggest you listen 3 times. Because when you begin speaking, you can't listen again. So if you've listened 3 times, it means you're much more likely to remember what the prompt was and all the little sections of it. Because sometimes the prompt is quite long and it has different questions within it. So I really recommend you listen 3 times. Next one, your answer must be directly related to the prompt. So I did mention this earlier, but I'll say it again. Task relevance is on the criteria. So it's really important you actually respond to the prompt and not speak about a different topic or go away from the prompt at all. Try your best to make your answer to be as closely related to the prompt as possible. That'll help you get a better score for task relevance. Next up, make sure to use a range of vocabulary and grammar, and you can use linking phrases to increase your fluency. I made a whole video on spoken linking phrases you can use for this question type. You can find that video up here or click on the link below in the description. Linking phrases are useful because it helps make your answers sound much smoother and more natural. So I recommend you watch that video and study the different phrases in that video. Next up, speak for as long as you can. This will increase your fluency score. And lastly, practice often. So it's quite hard to practice this question type since it's not on the practice test. So watch this video all the way to the end and get practice with the questions I show you. And if you want more practice, I recommend you use my practice platform. When you sign up to my practice platform, you get unlimited practice on all of the different question types on the Duolingo English test, including this listen and speak one. You can practice listening and responding to lots of different prompts, and you can see sample answers. On top of that, you can actually listen back to your answer and then compare it to a sample answer. This will be great practice for you, not only for this question type, but all of the others as well. So if this sounds good to you, you can find links to this practice platform below in the description. Anyway, let's get some practice done in this video. We'll start off with listening. So I've prepared 5 listening prompts for you. I'll play each one 3 times, and I want you to listen and fill in the blanks which will be on the screen. This will be helpful because you can check how well you understand these prompts. And after these 5 are done, we'll do a full speaking practice where I'll show you a prompt, give you 90 seconds to answer, and then show you my sample answer. I'm sure this will be really helpful for you, so make sure you watch the whole video and do all the practice questions here. Okay, well, let's get started with the 5 listening ones first. Remember, your job is to listen and fill in the blanks.
Describe a time when you told your friend the truth. What was the truth? What was your friend's reaction? Describe a time when you told your friend the truth. What was the truth? What was your friend's reaction? Describe a time when you told your friend the truth. What was the truth? What was your friend's reaction? Talk about a job that you would not like to do in the future. What is the job? Why wouldn't you like to do it? Talk about a job that you would not like to do in the future. What is the job? Why wouldn't you like to do it? Talk about a job that you would not like to do in the future. What is the job? Why wouldn't you like to do it?
Talk about a festival that is celebrated in your country. What is it? Why is it important? Talk about a festival that is celebrated in your country. What is it? Why is it important? Talk about a festival that is celebrated in your country. What is it? Why is it important? What school subjects do you think are the most important to study? Why do you think so? What school subjects do you think are the most important to study? Why do you think so? What school subjects do you think are the most important to study? Why do you think so?
Describe an art exhibition you have seen. When did you go there? Where was it? What was it like? Describe an art exhibition you have seen. When did you go there? Where was it? What was it like? Describe an art exhibition you have seen. When did you go there? Where was it? What was it like?
So those were 5 listening prompts. Were you able to understand them? Let me know below in the comments. Now let's jump into speaking. So I'll give you another listening prompt, which you can listen to 3 times, and then I'll give you 90 seconds to speak out your answer. After the 90 seconds is up, I'll show you my sample answer. I hope this is helpful for you. If you think it is, write yes below in the comments. Okay then, well, let's get started with this. Remember, your job is to listen and then speak for as long as you can. Try to speak for around 60 to 70 seconds.
Talk about the differences between working for a big company and working for a small company. Which do you prefer? Talk about the differences between working for a big company and working for a small company. Which do you prefer? Talk about the differences between working for a big company and working for a small company. Which do you prefer?
When choosing a company to work for, there are few things more important to consider than the size of the company. Typically, big companies offer higher salaries and have a bigger corporate ladder to climb, which could lead to more responsibilities and promotions. On the other hand, at a small company, an individual can make more of an impact. At small companies, your ideas and hard work have a bigger impact on the long-term success of the company, which can feel very rewarding. These are some differences between working for a big company and a small one. I definitely want to work for a small company when I graduate from university.
Okay, how was that? Well, now let's listen to a sample answer. I want you to look at this sample answer and compare it with yours. And that's it. Well done for finishing this whole video. If you did finish, write "I finished" below in the comments. I'm always curious who actually finishes these really long videos. And if you think this video is helpful, I recommend you watch this one here next or this one here. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi friends, welcome to this Duolingo English Test practice video. This practice video is all about the listen then speak question type. You know, the one that looks like this. And this video is very simple. I'm simply going to give you 7 sample questions and then show you 7 sample answers. One of the best ways to study for this Duolingo English test, or in fact any test, is simply to practice. And that's why I think this video is going to be helpful for you. On top of that, this listen then speak question is actually not on the practice test. So this video will give you an opportunity to practice this question type. And like I said, at the end I will show you my sample answers as well. Okay, we will get to this practice in just one moment, but I want to say that if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Teacher Luke from detready.com. Visit our website to find more information about the Duolingo English test. We have some courses to help you with your production subscore, and we have a new practice platform. This practice platform gives you the opportunity to practice all of the different questions on the Duolingo English test, and you can see your answers immediately. When you sign up, you get unlimited practice. There is a free version, so you might as well try it. There is a link below in the description. I highly recommend it. Okay, back to this video. Like I mentioned, we're going to do 7 practice questions and then I'll show you some sample answers. But very quickly before we do, let me remind you of some of the key points of this question type. Okay, quickly, here are some key points. Well, your job is simply to listen to a prompt or a question and then respond through speaking. On the real test, you can listen to the prompt 3 times, but you only have 20 seconds to listen. After the 20 seconds is up, you have to begin speaking. So make sure you listen to the prompt 3 times within 20 seconds. Once you begin speaking, you can't listen again. So it's really important you understand the question before you begin speaking. In total, you have 90 seconds to answer, but the Duolingo test guide says that you need to speak for at least 30 seconds. So the Duolingo test guide says you have to speak for at least 30 seconds. After you've spoken for 30 seconds, you can click the next button. However, I strongly recommend that you try to speak for longer, because fluency is part of the criteria, and one aspect of fluency is length. So if you can speak for longer, you'll get a better score for fluency. On the Duolingo test guide, it says that you only get this question type once on the test. However, when I took the test, I actually had this twice. So just know that sometimes you might come up twice. And it contributes to your conversation and production subscore. So those were the key points of this question type. If you want to learn some tips on how to answer this well, I recommend you watch this video here. Or watch it next, you can find it below in the description. Okay then, well, let's jump into this practice. Like I said, I've prepared 7 questions and sample answers for you. I'll play each question type 3 times, just like on the real test. Then I'll give you 90 seconds to answer, and at the end you can see my sample answer for that question. I strongly recommend that you use the 90 seconds to actually speak out an answer, because it will be really useful practice for you. Okay then, well, let's jump into sample question number 1.
Describe a major decision you have taken in your life. Was it the right decision? Describe a major decision you have taken in your life. Was it the right decision? Describe a major decision you have taken in your life. Was it the right decision?
A really important decision I've made recently is to study abroad, which is the reason I'm here taking this test today. No one from my family has ever had the chance to study abroad before. My parents were actually hoping I'd start training to become a doctor as soon as I graduate. But in fact, I don't think I want to practice medicine. I really want to study marketing, especially digital marketing, and I want to learn about different cultures. If I study digital marketing in Canada, I can learn how to do business in this new digital era, which is of course very competitive and fast-moving. As for whether it was the right decision, I'm pretty confident it was, and I'm really looking forward to broadening my experience and meeting new people in Canada. I'm going to do my best to finish my university course, and I'll go back to my country with new ideas that will help me get a good job. So, anyway, that's an important decision that I have taken in my life.
So that was sample question number 1 done with a sample answer. How did you find it? Was it easy or difficult? Let me know below in the comments. Okay, just very quickly before we move on to question number 2, I would like to share with you my practice platform. In this practice platform, you can practice all of the different question types on the Duolingo English test, just like this listen then speak one. We've made hundreds of different sample questions with sample answers for this listen then speak question type, so you can practice lots of different prompts and see really useful sample answers. I think this is one of the best ways to prepare for this Duolingo English test. So if you're interested, you can find links to this below in the description. Okay, well, let's get to question number 2.
Describe a school subject that you did not like in the past, but you like now. What made you change your mind? Describe a school subject that you did not like in the past, but you like now. What made you change your mind? Describe a school subject that you did not like in the past, but you like now. What made you change your mind?
When I was a school student, like everyone else, I had to study a lot of subjects. I enjoyed most of them, but there was one that I really didn't like, and that was history. I think the reason was that I disliked the teaching method of my teacher. To be completely frank with you, he was a lazy teacher. All he did was copy words and facts from our coursebook to the board, and made us write down what he wrote. There was no actual teaching involved. He then would tell us that we had to memorize all the information if we didn't want to receive a low grade for his subject. It was awful. When I was in my early 20s, I watched a film about Roman history. The film was about how the Romans invented things like bridges, roads, stadiums, and lots of other important things. I really enjoyed the film and realized that history is not as dull as I originally thought. After watching that film, I began reading more about history, watching documentaries, and even going to museums. I'm completely fascinated with history now.
Nowadays, more and more people live non-active lives. Why do you think this is? What are the problems associated with this? Nowadays, more and more people live non-active lives. Why do you think this is? What are the problems associated with this? Nowadays, more and more people live non-active lives. Why do you think this is? What are the problems associated with this?
Living a non-active life is becoming more and more common these days, even though there are a large number of sports facilities and government campaigns. The main problems caused by an inactive lifestyle are obesity and back pain. Actually, I have suffered with back pain, and it is awful. It's a well-known fact that long periods of physical inactivity raise the risk of becoming overweight and obese. This is because you burn fewer calories and easily gain weight when you don't move or exercise often. Also, posture and back problems are associated with leading a non-active life. Sitting for long periods causes serious back pain, and this can have long-lasting problems. All in all, leading a non-active lifestyle causes a lot of health problems, including obesity and spinal issues. I suggest people start exercising and going outside more often. For the past 3 years, I've been doing 20 minutes of yoga every day, and it has helped me overcome my back pain.
Global warming is one of the biggest threats humans face in the 21st century. What problems are associated with this? Global warming is one of the biggest threats humans face in the 21st century. What problems are associated with this? Global warming is one of the biggest threats humans face in the 21st century. What problems are associated with this?
Global warming is certainly the biggest issue facing humanity this century. The biggest worry I have is the rising ocean levels because I live near the sea. The most concerning problems caused by climbing sea levels are that land is being lost and people's homes being flooded. As water levels rise, low-lying land gets flooded, and many towns and cities get seriously damaged. On top of all that, millions of people all over the world live in coastal areas, and if the sea rises by even a few feet, they completely lose their property. Another major problem related to global warming is air pollution. Nowadays, many big cities all over the world have major air pollution problems, and this could lead to residents of those cities becoming seriously ill as they get older. In my opinion, it's time that we moved away from fossil fuels and tried using a cleaner type of energy, like wind power or even nuclear energy. Global warming's certainly the biggest threat to humans in the 21st century, and I'm very worried.
Is there a job that you would not like to do in the future? What is the job? Why do you think it is undesirable? Is there a job that you would not like to do in the future? What is the job? Why do you think it is undesirable? Is there a job that you would not like to do in the future? What is the job? Why do you think it is undesirable?
Nowadays, there are ample choices available in the market when it comes to career options. If I had to choose one particular job among many that I wouldn't like to do, I suppose it would be a sales job. Once I worked as a salesman for a computer company, and I really hated it. When I worked in the sales department for that company as an intern, I was in charge of making cold calls and trying to sell computers and other computer-related items like printers and so on. Initially, I was very enthusiastic about calling people and selling them the computers. But right away I figured out that it was an incredibly stressful job for me. I'm an introvert, so calling and meeting lots of strangers every day made me very anxious. I have a lot of respect for sales workers, especially successful ones. They have a lot of determination and patience for their job. But I believe I don't have the skill set or personality for a sales job in the future. Anyway, that's a job that I certainly would not like to do in the future.
It is better for children to grow up in the countryside than in a big city. Do you agree or disagree? It is better for children to grow up in the countryside than in a big city. Do you agree or disagree? It is better for children to grow up in the countryside than in a big city. Do you agree or disagree?
There are some obvious pros and cons of living in a city and living in the countryside. And to be frank, I'm not sure which is better. I think children who grow up in the countryside seem to be more mature and independent. The skills they need in life develop faster because of the environment they're brought up in, and this has some obvious advantages. On the flip side, even though kids who grow up in big cities tend to be less independent, they have more career and educational opportunities. In an ideal world, most children would live in a city and visit the countryside frequently or vice versa. I was pretty lucky that I spent most of my early childhood in the countryside, but then moved to a medium-sized city when I was about 15 years old. I'm sure this balance has helped me a lot in my life.
Describe an exciting experience you have had. What happened? Describe an exciting experience you have had. What happened? Describe an exciting experience you have had. What happened?
One of the most exciting experiences in my life so far was when I launched my first project for my business. I felt very proud of the product I had made, but I also had doubts about how I could find people to buy the product. So ultimately, I had very low expectations and just hoped a few people would like the product and support me. When launch day arrived, I was nervous but hopeful. At first, nothing happened and I started to get very worried. For the first few hours, my fears seemed to be confirmed. But then slowly over time, people began to find and buy the project, and it turned into one of the most exciting times of my life. Since then, I've launched several other small businesses, mostly on the internet, and I absolutely love thinking of new products to create. I think the most exciting experiences in my life so far have all been business-related.
Okay, wow, well done. You finished 7 practice questions with sample answers. How did you do? Did you find this easy or difficult? Let me know below in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, I recommend you watch this one here next or this one here. Okay, I'll see you there. Take care. Hi friends, today's video is all about link-in phrases for speaking. So we all know these types of link-in phrases. First and foremost, additionally, moreover, thus we can conclude. Now, of course, these phrases are great. They are particularly useful when you're doing academic writing or when giving a very formal speech or presentation. But they are a bit formal, and when you are speaking more casually, you want to use more casual spoken link-in phrases. So that's what we're going to do today. In this lesson, I'm going to go over lots of different link-in phrases you can use when speaking and when answering the 4 different speaking questions on the Duolingo English test. So just a quick reminder, what are the 4 different speaking questions on this Duolingo English test? Well, we have the speak about a photo question type, then we have the read and respond question type, Next, we have the listen and respond. And lastly, we have a spoken interview question. So the linking phrases I'm going to show you today can be used in any of these 4 different speaking questions. Okay, we will start this lesson in just one moment, but if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Luke from DETready.com. Head over to our website to find information about the Duolingo English Test. We have some courses and a very useful practice platform where you can practice all of the different question types on this Duolingo English Test. You can find a link to this website down below in the description. Okay, back to this lesson. I'm going to show you a bunch of different linking phrases in just a second, but very quickly, what are linking phrases and why are they important? Well, linking phrases are set phrases that basically glue your ideas together. They are important because they make you sound more natural, more fluent, and they make your answers more cohesive. And if you take a look at the Duolingo test criteria, fluency is a big part of the criteria for speaking. So being able to use these types of linking phrases well will really help you get a better score on speaking. Okay then, well let's learn some linking phrases you can use when speaking casually. So I think the best way to teach you these phrases is simply to answer a question and use lots of different phrases to show you. So the question we're going to answer is this. In your opinion, does money equal success? Why or why not? So normally when we answer this type of question, we want to give a linking phrase to begin. Normally people use things like firstly or first and foremost. Of course, those are fine to use, but they are a little bit formal and maybe more written style. So let me show you a few more here. So here's a sample introduction. Firstly, each person can be successful in their own way. Some people earn success through money, while others earn success through hard work and respect. The linking phrase in this sentence is firstly. So this short answer used the linking phrase firstly, and of course firstly is used when you want to indicate that you're going to talk about your first opinion or your first answer. And it's totally fine to use. You can use this in speaking and writing. But there are some other ones we can use, some other ones that are perhaps more common in casual spoken English. So let's talk about those. We have to begin with, to start with, first off, first of all, and to kick off. These are all different linking phrases you can use in more casual spoken English. And you can definitely use them in your spoken answers on the Duolingo English Test. They all have the same meaning as firstly. You use these when you want to talk about your first opinion or your first answer. So now let's take a look at these in some sample answers. Okay, here are some sample answers. To begin with, there isn't one version of success. Success depends on the individual's goal, so it's difficult to define. First off, although money is an important aspect of our lives, it's not the only measure of success. Yes, I'd say money equals success. To kick off, money helps us live better and healthier lives, which, in my opinion, is the definition of success. So those were 3 short answers giving your first opinion and using very casual spoken linking phrases. So that's the first part done. Now let's look at different phrases for giving an example. When you are answering the speaking questions on the Duolingo English Test, it's not a good idea just to give your opinion and move on to the next idea. Instead, you should elaborate and develop your opinions. And giving examples is a very easy way to do that. Most students, when they give examples, they use this linking phrase, for example, or maybe for instance. And of course, these are fine, but there are more casual spoken ones we can use, which might be more appropriate for the speaking questions on the Duolingo English Test. So again, let's take a look at some examples. Remember, we're using the same question. Does money equal success? Okay, so here's a sample answer. For example, I consider my father to be very successful, even though he doesn't have a lot of money, because he is deeply loved by all his family and friends. Again, really good answer. We used for example as the linking phrase to indicate that you're going to give an example to back up your opinion. Now let's take a look at some other linking phrases you can use. We can say, let me share an example, or let me give an example. Another one you can use is, an example of this is, or if you want to emphasize it some more, a great example of this is. These ones are much more common and much more casual and much more spoken style. So these will be good to use in the speaking answers. Let's see an example. A great example of this is healthcare. If you have a lot of money, you can afford better healthcare, which will help you live a longer life. And now other linking words meaning also. Of course, when we're writing or speaking more formally, we have also, moreover, in addition, additionally. And again, those are completely fine, but now let's take a look at some casual spoken ones. So here it is in an answer. Also, many social workers, musicians, artists, scientists, and writers have been successful in their lives because of their contribution to society, regardless how much money they earned. So here also was used to show that you're moving on to the next idea, in this case opinion number 2. And of course it's totally fine to use also, but there are some other ones which I'll show you here. We have on top of that, what's more, as well, or as well as that. These ones are very casual and can be used when you are sharing your spoken answer. They all have exactly the same meaning as also and can be put in replace of also in any answer like this. But let me show you some more different examples. This will help you to understand how to use them correctly. On top of that, many of the greatest people who have ever lived were not rich. Rather, they were great because of their contribution to society. What's more, many of the rich people alive today are greedy and don't use their wealth to contribute to society. Okay, so those are 2 different answers. They're not my opinion, just some sample answers I wrote. But as you can see, those linking phrases can be used to extend your answers by adding another opinion. Okay, now let's take a look at contrasting linking phrases. Let's look at how we can replace the word but with other different linking phrases. So when you're answering the speaking questions on the Duolingo English test, you will probably use the word but quite a lot. We use but to show contrast. So we have just given our opinion and now we're going to contrast it. So let's see how but is used in an example and then we'll change it up with some different linking phrases. Okay, we have but money does play an important role in everyone's lives and a lot of people work very hard to build their wealth. So far in this example, you can see that the opinion of the speaker is that wealth and money do not equal success. However, here, the speaker is about to contrast his idea. So he uses the word but, and then gives his contrasting idea. But is totally fine to use, but here are some more. You can say, at the same time, or but at the same time. Or you can also use that said, or saying that. These are used to show contrast or make your opinion a bit less strong. Okay, lastly, let's take a look at how you can finish your answer, basically synonyms for in conclusion or in summary. So the more formal way would be to say in conclusion, just like this. In conclusion, I believe that success is about fulfillment and not about how much money you earn. Okay, so in conclusion or in summary are totally fine ways to conclude your answer, but they are a little bit formal and not that common in more casual spoken answers. So here are some other ones you can use. You can say, to wrap up, in a nutshell, overall, or basically. These are good ways to conclude a good spoken answer. They might be considered quite informal, so don't use them in your writing or especially academic writing, but in spoken language they're totally fine, even in kind of test situations like on the Duolingo English test. So let's see the answer we made together in full. So this was the question, remember? In your opinion, does money equal success? Why or why not? So here's the full answer. To begin with, each person can be successful in their own way. Some people earn success through money, while others earn success through hard work and respect. A great example of this is my father. I consider my father to be very successful, even though he doesn't have a lot of money, because he is deeply loved by all his friends and family. What's more, many social workers, musicians, artists, scientists, and writers have been successful in their lives because of their contribution to society, regardless how much money they earned. That being said, Money does play an important role in everyone's lives, and a lot of people work very hard to build wealth. To wrap up, I believe that success is about fulfillment and not how much money you earn. Okay, so that's a full answer using lots of different and very casual link-in phrases that can be used when you're giving your speaking answers on the Duolingo English test. If you found this video helpful, I recommend you watch this one here next or this one right here. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about 21 phrases you can use to immediately improve your speaking on the Duolingo English test. Now these phrases are helpful because they'll help you sound a lot more natural, make your answers sound more logical, and help you speak for longer. And we will start in just 1 second, but if you're new here, hi, I'm teacher Luke from detready.com. Visit our website to find useful tools and information to help you prepare for the Duolingo English test. Okay then, well let's get started with today's lesson. I'm going to teach you these phrases by going through an answer for one of the speaking questions on the Practice Duolingo English test, and this is the question we'll look at today. Discuss public assistance offered to low-income families in your country. What kind of assistance is offered? Who can benefit? What are some of the positive and negative results of these programs? So this is the question we're going to answer. When you get a question like this on the Duolingo English test, it's good to begin your talk by using an introductory phrase. Basically, a phrase that will introduce the topic. These are a great way to begin your talk because they make you sound a lot more logical and they give you a couple more seconds to think about your ideas. Let me show you some of these introductory phrases. You can use phrases like this. Today, I'd like to talk about. In this talk, I'm going to describe, explain. I would like to talk about. I'm going to tell you about. All of these types of phrases are called introductory phrases and they're great for introducing the topic. So here's an example in full. Today, I'd like to talk about the different types of housing assistance low-income families get in my country. Another example. In this talk, I'm going to describe the different types of housing assistance low-income families get in my country. So as you can see, using an introductory phrase like this can help you sound a lot more logical and it's a great way to begin your answers. Now let's take a look back at the question we're answering today. You might notice that there are actually 3 different questions Duolingo asks you. This is very common on the read then speak question type on the test. And I strongly recommend that you answer each of these questions because it'll give you more things to talk about and help you speak for longer. But it is important how you transition from question to question. There are different phrases you can use to move from first to second to third. So let me show you some of those phrases here. For example, in regard to the first question, turning to the second question, or as for the final question. So you can use these 3 phrases to move from the first, second, and third questions, and I think they're a great way to transition. It also means that you don't have to link the ideas together to go from question to question. You can kind of begin a new idea by using one of these phrases. On top of that, if you want to go back to a question, if you have time or you have new ideas, you can use a phrase like this. Returning to the first question, or returning to the second question. Now let me show you a full example. In regard to the first question, low-income families are entitled to several types of housing assistance, but the most common, I believe, is rental assistance, where families can receive a grant to help pay their rent. As for the final question, I strongly believe that support for low-income families is essential, especially for families with children. Returning to the second question, I would like to add that low-income families are not the only ones who can receive government support, but also the elderly and people with disabilities can receive similar assistance. These types of transitional phrases from question to question are a great way to make your answers sound a lot more logical, and it makes it easier for you to move to another question. Personally, I recommend you use these when you do the speaking question on the Duolingo test. Also, on the Duolingo speaking questions, you are required to give your opinion from time to time, and there are lots of different phrases you can use to give your opinion. Of course, the most common one is, in my opinion, but you don't want to use that one all the time. You can use some different ones. So let's look at some different ways to express your opinions now. You could say something like, I'm inclined to believe that. From my point of view, or from my perspective, my impression is that, as far as I'm concerned, the way I see it, So these are 5 different phrases you can use instead of "in my opinion," and they're probably better. You'll probably get a higher score if you use one of these phrases on any English exam. Of course, "in my opinion" is not wrong, you just don't want to use it all the time. Now I'll show you a few quick examples on how you can use these phrases in your answers. So here's a full example. I'm inclined to believe that housing assistance is essential for many low-income families, especially families with young children. Another example, as far as I'm concerned, housing assistance is vital for many struggling families. And a third example, the way I see it, housing assistance is an important benefit for families who are struggling economically. Being able to give your opinion effectively on the Duolingo test is really important, and these phrases can help you a lot. Now next up, after you've given your opinion, you want to back it up with some examples. And nearly all the students I teach use the same phrase to show that they're going to give an example. Of course, they say, "for example." But there are lots of different ones you can use. And the more variety of phrases you use in your answer will lead to a better score. So let me show you some different phrases you can use to give examples here. For instance, a great example of this is, "Let me share an example. An instance from my life that springs to mind is." Giving examples like this is a great way to develop your answer, and that's really important too. And like I said earlier, it's a good idea not to use the same phrase over and over again, so don't just use the phrase "for example" many times, instead use these. Let's see how they can be used in a full sentence. For instance, families who are eligible for housing assistance can receive monthly grants to help pay for their rent, as well as food stamps to cover their cost of groceries. And if you want to give a personal example, an example from your experience, you could say something like this. An instance from my life that springs to mind is when my best friend's mother and father both lost their jobs and they had to rely on government benefits for a short time to afford their groceries and pay their energy bills. It's very important to remember that when you do the speaking question on the Duolingo test, that you have to develop your ideas. That means go beyond just giving your opinion, but giving a reason or an example why. Using phrases like the ones I just showed you are a great way to give examples. Okay, now we've spoken a lot about this question, it's time to conclude our answer. Many of my students use phrases like "in conclusion" or "to sum up" to conclude their answer, which is totally fine, but as always, I want to show you more variety of different phrases you can use, so here are some more phrases you can use to conclude your answer. You can say something like, "to wrap this talk up," "to summarize my opinion quickly," "so that's why," "to make a long story short." I don't recommend you use these phrases for writing, they are a bit informal for that, but they are totally fine for any type of speaking. By nature, speaking is a lot more informal, so phrases like this are totally fine. Let's see some examples of them. To wrap up this talk, although some people argue that my government are too generous with the assistance they offer to low-income families, I believe it's essential that they continue offering this type of support. Okay, that's it. Those were 21 phrases you can use. Now I recommend you watch this speaking video next. It will help you to organize your answer. Okay, see you there. Hi guys, I'm Luke, an expert Duolingo English Test teacher, and today we're going to look at the Read Aloud question type. This question type assesses your literacy and conversation skills. So if these are areas you're struggling with, this video will be really helpful for you. I'm going to go over some of the key points, give you some useful tips, and at the end show you some examples. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's get started with the key points of the Read Aloud task. This is what this question type looks like when you take the test. And as you can see from this example, the sentence isn't very long. And when you take this test, you will have it around 7 times in the whole test. I've taken the Duolingo test 2 times, and the first time I had it 6 times, and the second time I had it 7 times. So just know you will probably have to do this around 7 times. And you only have 20 seconds to complete this task. That's actually quite short. So this is a sample video from the practice test on the Duolingo English Test website, and this shows you how the test is formatted. As soon as the question appears, the clock will start ticking. Like I mentioned, you have 20 seconds. I recommend that you spend the first 5 to 7 seconds reading this silently in your head as preparation. And then when you're ready, click record now. Then you read the sentence out loud. And when you have finished, you click next. This all happens really quickly. 20 seconds is very short. So as soon as you see this task, you have to be mentally ready. Before I go on, if you think this video is useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really does help me a lot. Okay, back to it. And like I mentioned before, this tests your reading and speaking skills. So in the sub-scores on the Duolingo English test, that would be your literacy and conversation sub-scores. And you're scored on 3 things: content, fluency, and pronunciation. And that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to show you the different ways to improve your score in these 3 aspects: content, fluency, and pronunciation. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to answer this question type. So let's get started with content. So for content, it's quite simple. You simply just have to read exactly what's written down. However, some students make mistakes. So these are my tips. I call them the 3 don'ts. First, don't add words. Sometimes, for some reason, students, when they're reading this, they actually add an extra word. If you do that, you will lose points for content. For example, some student might say, "If you need help to get in another job, I'll help you with that." So avoid adding extra words. The second don't is don't omit words. Omit simply means skip. Sometimes students skip words when they're reading. On test day, a lot of students are very nervous and they try to read too quickly. If you try to read too quickly, you're more likely to omit or skip a word. So be careful with that. And the third don't is replace. Don't replace words. Replace here means change. You can change the word completely, or you could change the form of the word. For example, if you need help getting another job, I'll helping you with that. Of course, that is wrong. You can't do that. You have to be careful to read exactly what is written down. So that's it for content. It's quite straightforward. You have to read exactly what is written down. However, on test day, when the clock is ticking and you're feeling nervous, a lot of students make these mistakes. They add, they omit, or they change a word. So you have to be careful not to do that because you will lose points. To overcome this, I recommend that you practice this task a lot. You can find your own sentences, give yourself a time limit, and read it out loud. This will get you used to the time pressure on this question type. Okay, that's content done. Now let's take a look at fluency. Fluency is the most complicated part of this task, so pay attention here. When thinking about fluency, you have to consider these 4 aspects: speed, sentence stress and rhythm, connected speech, and pausing. These 4 aspects all contribute to your fluency and are all equally important. Let's talk about speed first. A lot of students ask me, do I have to speak really quickly to get a high score on this question type? And the answer is simply no, you don't have to speak really quickly. Of course, speed and fluency are related, so it is a little bit important. But if you speak too quickly, it makes it very difficult for you to be understood, and on top of that, you might lose points on content as well. Because if you're focused just on speaking quickly, you might do some of those don'ts. You might add, change, or omit a word. So my recommendation is to just speak at your natural pace. Not too slow, but also not too quickly. Like I said, you don't get extra points just for speaking quickly. Okay, well now let's take a look at sentence stress and rhythm. Sentence stress and rhythm are closely related. And there are 3 basic rules we need to follow. First, remember that content words are stressed. Content words in a sentence can be the main verb, the noun, adjective, adverbs, or the negative auxiliaries like don't, aren't, or can't. These are the words that are usually stressed in a sentence. On the other hand, function words are not stressed. Function words are basically the grammar words. These include pronouns, prepositions, articles, conjunctions, and auxiliary verbs in the positive form. So these grammar words are not stressed, only stress the content words. In terms of rhythm, the time between the stressed words is about the same, and this creates the rhythm in our sentences. English is what we call a stress times language. That means that we place a lot of stress in our sentences on key words, and this drives rhythm in our sentences. Some other languages are syllable timed. That means that they don't put extra stress on particular words. Each syllable gets the same amount of stress. But English is a stress-timed language, so you have to remember to put stress on the content words. And the function words or the grammar words are typically unstressed. So let's take a look at an example. Here's an example. Where do you think the stress is in this question? Do you know if he's busy this morning? So this question had 3 stressed words: know, busy, and morning. As you can see, these are the content words in this question, so the content words get the stress. One more time. Do you know if he's busy this morning? So far, under fluency, we've looked at speed, sentence stress, and rhythm. I hope you see how important these are. Now let's take a look at another point, which is connected speech. Connected speech is a massive, massive topic, and it would take a really long video to cover each element of connected speech. So in this video, I'm just going to cover 3 really important aspects. I'll make a longer video on connected speech in the future, but for now, let's take a look at these aspects. So the 3 aspects I want to look at are weak and strong forms of words, contractions, and linking. I think these 3 are essential for getting a good score on this question type. Okay, so let's start with strong and weak forms. The strong form of a word is just what we discussed earlier with sentence stress. The content words get strong forms. They are stressed. But a lot of words take the weak form. When words take the weak form, they use this sound here, and usually it's the function, the grammar words that take this weak form. Let me show you some examples of this weak form. But in the weak form is more like but or just ba. Can is kun. Have is have. And is un. A is an, un. The, than, thun. It's really important to remember that these function words, these grammar words, they almost always take the weak form when we're speaking. If you make them strong, then it actually can change the meaning of the sentence, which sometimes can be useful, but on this Duolingo English test, it's not that helpful. So remember that these function words will take the weak form. Let me show you an example. So here's an example. Star Wars is good, but it's not as good a movie as people say. So, did you notice the 4 examples of weak words in this sentence? They were ba, us, and us. Again, notice here that these are all the function or grammar words, so they take the weak form. Star Wars is good, but it's not as good a movie as people say. So I know this video is a bit complicated so far, but this question type, the read aloud question type, does test your fluency, and so far all of these elements are related to fluency. If you find it confusing, please go back and watch it again. Now let's take a look at another one, which is contractions. Contractions is a bit simpler. Okay, so basically contractions are when 2 words join together. Here are some quick and easy examples. I will becomes I'll, he is, he's, he has, he's, she would, she'd, we have, we've, it had, it'd. Of course, there are more combinations than the ones I've just shown you, but these are the most common. It's usually when a pronoun and a function word join together. I've noticed that sometimes in a Duolingo English test, they actually put the contractions in writing. So you will see I'll as in I''LL. This is really helpful, so you don't have to make a guess, you just have to read it the way it's written. But other times it's not like that, and you have to know these contractions so you can read it very naturally. Okay, now let's look at the last element of connected speech, and it is linking. Okay, so for linking, let's just take a look at an example. Here's the same sentence that I showed you earlier. Where is the linking in this sentence? Star Wars is good, but it's not as good a movie as people say. So I hope you noticed 5 different examples of linking here. Now, this is how linking works. When one word ends in a consonant sound, but the other begins in a vowel, that consonant links to the next word. For example, wars is, Star Wars is good, Star Wars is good. This rule is quite simple and it's found a lot in other languages too. However, linking can be a bit more complicated. Take a look at the last one, movie as. So movie, of course, ends in a vowel, E, and as begins in another vowel, which is the schwa, When one word ends in a vowel and the other begins in a vowel, then we have to add a consonant in between. The consonant can either be ya, wa, or in British English also r. So in this example, movie as. Ya is the sound that links these two words. To quickly review, for linking there are 2 types, consonant to vowel and vowel to vowel. For consonant to vowel, the last consonant links to the next vowel. For vowel to vowel, we have to include another sound. That sound can be ya, wa, or in British English, r. So that's connected speech done for this task. There is a lot more to connected speech, and like I said, I will make a video on that in the future. But for now, definitely try to learn these 3 things. So now let's take a look at the last element of fluency, and that is pausing. In my experience, a lot of students overthink pausing, especially for this task on the Duolingo English test, because it is a reading task. When you're reading a sentence out loud, you need to pay attention to the punctuation marks. This will show you when to pause. Most typically, the punctuation mark you're looking for is the comma. When you see a comma, it is an indication for you to pause. Listen to me say this sentence. If you need help getting another job, I'll help you with that. This comma was an indicator for me to pause here. When you pause, don't pause too long, just pause slightly. Listen to me say this one more time. If you need help getting another job, I'll help you with that. So did you notice that it was just a slight pause? However, it was a pause and you need to be sure to do that. So the rule for pausing is really simple. When you're reading, just make sure to pause for a short while whenever you see a comma or a period. Mostly in this question type, you will only be given 1 sentence to read. And if that sentence is long, it's very likely to include a comma or 2. So use those commas as indications of when to pause. Okay, and that's fluency done. We looked at speed, sentence stress, connected speech, and pausing. All of these elements are essential to fluency. So when you practice, make sure to pay attention to all of these. Now let's take a look at pronunciation. In this section, I'm going to focus on the pronunciation of single words rather than whole sentences. Whole sentences is more in the fluency category. So let's take a look here. So for pronunciation, there are 4 main elements we need to think about. Vowel sounds is a very important one, in particular, long and short vowels. For example, the long and short E, sit and seat, fit, feet, and so on. All consonant sounds are very important. In addition to consonant sounds, you should think about consonant clusters. This is when some consonants are joined together. For example, stra, strike, dra, drink, spla, splash. This can be really tricky to pronounce for a lot of students, so definitely practice the consonant clusters. And the last one is word stress. Make sure that when you learn new words in English, you learn where the stress is in the particular word. There are so many rules for word stress, too much for this video, but in the future I will make a video on word stress for you. Okay, so those were the 3 elements you're going to be scored on: content, fluency, and pronunciation. Now let's take a look at some examples. I'm going to show you a couple examples, give you 20 seconds to read it out loud, then I will read it. I want you to listen and repeat after me, and then we'll study the examples together. Sound good? Well, let's get started. If I'd known about the party, I would have come. If I'd known about the party, I would have come. In this sentence, there are some useful features. I had gets contracted to become I'd. Known is stressed, and the last sound in known is n that links to about. Known about, known about. The takes the weak form to become the. Party is stressed. The comma indicates a place you should take a break. I would have can be connected to become I'd have, or you can say it I would have. Both are acceptable. And the last word come is the main verb, so it does get the stress. One more time. If I'd known about the party, I would have come. I'll ask him to come over as soon as possible. I'll ask him to come over as soon as possible. In this sentence, I will gets contracted to become I'll. The L sound at the end of will links to ask, and ask gets stressed. So altogether, it sounds like this. I'll ask. I'll ask. To takes the weak form, ta. Come and over link. Come over. Come over. Over is also stressed. As takes the weak form, us. Soon is stressed, and as is pronounced us. The last sound in soon is the N, and that links to us to become soonas, soonas. And the last word possible is stressed. One more time all together. I'll ask him to come over as soon as possible. And that's it for this video. I hope this was helpful. If you thought so, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, you can write your question below in the comments, or join my Facebook group and then you can chat with me there. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Take care. Hi friends, and welcome to this speaking practice lesson for the Duolingo English Test. In this lesson, you're going to have the chance to repeat after me using the imitation technique. We're going to answer a read and speak question where you have to read a prompt and respond for 90 seconds. On the test, it looks like this. And like I said, we're going to do the imitation technique. So I'm going to speak out a full answer to a question, and your job then is to listen and repeat after me. This will be helpful because you get the chance to speak out a full answer. Okay, I will share with you my answer in just one moment, but if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Teacher Luke from DETready.com. Visit our website because we have useful information about the test, we have some online courses, and a very helpful practice platform where you can practice all of the different question types on the Duolingo English Test, including the speaking ones like the one we're going to do today. You can find links to all of this below in the description. Okay, then back to this lesson. So like I said, we're going to do the imitation technique where you have to listen and repeat after me. we're going to answer a question related to health, which is a common topic on the Duolingo English test and all of the other English tests as well. And the question we're going to answer is this. Describe something healthy that you enjoy doing. What is it and why do you enjoy it? Alright, so that's our question. Now I'm going to speak out a full answer and your job is to listen and repeat after me. I'm going to speak in natural chunks of language and pause after each chunk. Your job is simple. You have to listen and repeat, but try to use the same speed, the same intonation, the same stress, and also the pronunciation of difficult words. I strongly recommend that you do actually speak out loud because it will be useful practice for you. And after we've done that, I'm going to give you another question for you to practice speaking out loud with. Okay then, well let's get to it. Remember, your job is to listen and repeat after me. For the last 5 years, I've been very conscious about my health. Obviously, both exercise and good nutrition are hugely important to maintain good health. But for me, playing sports is probably my favorite way to stay healthy. As I really enjoy competition and being outdoors with my friends. My favorite sport is football. And even though I do enjoy other sports like tennis and swimming, my favorite sport has always been football. I've played football since I was at school. In fact, almost every day. I've made so many friends playing football. And there's no better feeling than scoring a goal. Football is a great form of aerobic exercise. And helps you practice sprinting and also long-distance running. Because you run a lot during the game. All in all, playing football has been my main form of exercise. And it's probably the most healthy activity I do. Okay, now I'm going to speak out this answer again at a more natural speed, without pauses, and I want you again to listen and try to repeat after me. But before we do this, if you think this type of video is helpful, write yes below in the comments and I'll make more based on the different topics on the Duolingo English test. Okay, well let's get to it. For the last 5 years, I've been very conscious about my health. Obviously, both exercise and good nutrition are hugely important to maintain good health. But for me, playing sports is probably my favorite way to stay healthy. As I really enjoy competition and being outdoors with my friends. My favorite sport is football. And even though I do enjoy other sports like tennis and swimming, my favorite sport has always been football. I've played football since I was at school. In fact, almost every day. I've made so many friends playing football, and there's no better feeling than scoring a goal. Football is a great form of aerobic exercise. And helps you practice sprinting and also long distance running because you run a lot during the game. All in all, playing football has been my main form of exercise, and it's probably the most healthy activity I do. Okay, now it's your turn. I'm going to show you a different question and I'm going to give you 90 seconds to answer. Your job is to speak out your answer for those 90 seconds. If you're taking the test soon, I strongly recommend you use this video to actually practice speaking out a good answer based on a question like this, because these questions are really similar to the ones on the Duolingo English test. Okay then, well, let's get to it. Are you ready? Alright, that's it. I hope this lesson was helpful. If you think it was, please write yes below in the comments. And also, if you want to study more with me, I recommend you watch this video here or this one here next. Okay, that's all from me today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Hi friends, welcome to the speaking practice video. In this lesson, you're going to improve your speaking answers on the Duolingo English test by using the imitation technique. The imitation technique is basically listen and repeat. So I'm going to speak out a full answer and your job is to listen and repeat exactly what I say. But you have to pay attention to the speed, the pronunciation, and the intonation. Doing this will help you sound a lot more fluent, and on top of that, you'll learn new vocabulary and you'll learn how to structure an answer well. We're gonna do it for the read then speak question type on the Duolingo English test, you know, the one that looks like this. You get this question twice on the Duolingo English test, and the topic we're gonna cover is technology, so a very common topic. Okay, we will start in just a second, but I want to say if you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Teacher Luke from detready.com. Visit our website because we have lots of information and really useful tools to help you prepare for the Duolingo English test. So let's get started. Like I said, we're going to cover the topic of technology today, and this is the question we're going to answer. Describe how technology has changed the way we interact with each other. Do you think that it has made us more social? Has it had a positive or negative impact on society? How will it change the way we interact in the future? So this is the style of question you'll get on the Duolingo English test. You basically get given a broad topic and then you get 3 questions to answer about it. So I'll now speak out my answer for this question, and your job, like I mentioned, is to listen and repeat, paying close attention to my speed, pronunciation, and intonation. I'll speak out my answer 2 times. The first time will be a bit slower and in smaller chunks, and the second time will be at a lot more natural speed. Okay, well, let's get started with my answer. Yes, overall, I think that technology has made us more social. Albeit in a different way than in the past. The invention of online social media sites like Facebook has dramatically reduced the need to have face-to-face interactions. And this has been very helpful, especially since 2020. Through these social media platforms, people can easily keep in touch and communicate with whoever they want. From anywhere in the world. Actually, I've experienced this. Because since last year, I've been learning Japanese from a Japanese teacher. Who lives in Tokyo, from my home in Germany. It's amazing that I have this opportunity thanks to new technology. So, based on this, I believe that technology has made us more social. Moving on to the next question. If I had to make a prediction, I'd say that interactions among people are going to become more digital in the future. I think this because many of my younger friends and colleagues would much prefer to communicate with me digitally, via text or online chat, rather than in person. So, based on this, I strongly believe that technology will encourage more people to interact online rather than in real life. Okay, so that was the first time. That was a little bit slow. Now I'll do it a lot more quicker and I'll speak in full sentences. But your job is the same. Listen and repeat, paying close attention to the speed, pronunciation, and intonation. Okay, let's get to it. Yes, overall I think that technology has made us more social, albeit in a different way than in the past. The invention of online social media sites like Facebook has dramatically reduced the need to have face-to-face interactions, and this has been very helpful, especially since 2020. Through these social media platforms, people can easily keep in touch and communicate with whoever they want from anywhere in the world. Actually, I've experienced this because since last year, I have been learning Japanese from a Japanese teacher who lives in Tokyo from my home in Germany. It's amazing that I have this opportunity thanks to new technology. So, based on this, I believe that technology has made us more social. Moving on to the next question. If I had to make a prediction, I'd say that interactions among people are going to become more digital in the future. I think this because many of my younger friends and colleagues would much prefer to communicate with me digitally via text or online chat rather than in person. So based on this, I strongly believe that technology will encourage more people to interact online rather than in real life. Okay, that's all from me today. If you like this video, I recommend you watch this video here. It's a very similar video to this one. It'll help you with your speaking. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.